Thank you very much. Perhaps I'll first raise the issue of supplementary welfare allowances and the controls that are in place. Certainly, anecdotally, I will be receiving many different queries from people as to how they're treated differently. It's obviously a huge element of discretion is needed, but also that's implies that a huge level of control is also needed by the department. And I wonder if you could just talk about how that's administered. I looked through for PQ on a breakdown by office, and that wasn't possible to provide, and so that makes me concerned that is there a broader lack of control over the supplementary welfare system?
No, I wouldn't say so, Deputy. And I have the figures here. I'll see if I can. You'll see it actually, I think, in the Controller and Auditor General's report in Chapter 4. I think we did a supplementary welfare allowance, and the overpayment was 2.6%. So it's in line, generally speaking. What I would say about the supplementary welfare allowance is administered by very experienced and senior staff, higher executive officer grade in the department, and that's deliberately because it's a payment which is made using discretion. Most of our scheme payments are authorised at clerical officer level. For this scheme, because there is discretion vested in the person rather than being predominantly rules-based, we have staff that are experienced and well trained. They are supervised. We do control reviews. We do audits. Our internal auditor looks at it. So no, there is a lot of tight controls on it.
And in terms of training and criteria for those staff, is that something that's provided and that could be provided to the committee?
Yes, we can certainly do that. All of our training now, Deputy, for posts like the Community Welfare Service, we've got accredited to the National Framework for Qualifications.
I know, let's say, for assistance with bereavement costs or costs associated with a burial, it can be very difficult for some families where estrangement is a factor. And then the welfare officer requires that person, often the person left caring for the older relative, to then act almost as liaison with all siblings in the entire family, regardless of whether there's estrangement in place, and that person can be left feeling very vulnerable because they can't make the payment for the burial. And I know it's a discretionary payment, but it might be something that you can look at. But perhaps we'll look at the details, and I'll come back to you on other questions directly, perhaps. Just in regard to the pandemic unemployment payment, has all of the backdated monies for PUP, which were due to be paid, has that now been paid?
Not yet, Deputy. We expect to pay them in the next 2 to 3 weeks. There'll be quite a large number. We've paid about 850,000 people PUP, just under 900,000 at some point over the period since March. We reckon we'll have to pay somewhere in the region of 300,000 people some arrears payment. It might be 1 week, it might be 2, it might be 3 weeks of arrears. So we're going through all of those cases at the moment. We plan to get them out and paid before the end of this month so that any arrears can be taken into account in the bonus payment, which will happen in the first week in December. So in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, look, and I like all the deputies, I acknowledge the huge effort and work that was done, but I did receive assurances that those payments would be made a number of weeks ago, in a number of weeks, and so I just asked that everything can be done in order for that to be done, particularly before Christmas. Could I just ask what the average wait time for PUP claims to be processed are now under the new Level 5 restrictions, and how many staff have you got in place processing those claims?
At the moment, Deputy, we've moved pretty much 97–98% of claims are coming in online. A lot of claims can be processed without human intervention. Last week we paid 343,000 claims. Less than 1% of them were held, and we generally pay within a week. The PUP is paid on a payment week basis, so claims which are received and processed before Thursday 1 week are paid on Tuesday the following week. If they're received on a Friday, well then they're paid Tuesday the week after that again. So it's a payment week basis. So generally they're paid within a week if they go through the system correctly. Where they don't go through the system correctly, we communicate with the people involved, explain why it wasn't paid, and give them the contact details where they can get in contact with us if they need to provide more information and so on.
Yeah. Just to conclude, I've had some anecdotal evidence again of people who were in receipt of PUP earlier in the year, and when the new Level 5 restrictions came in, that on this occasion they're being declined for PUP because of PSI contributions, and there seems to be some discretion, some difference there between the two. And I wonder, is the department keeping an eye on that at the moment? Is it something that's a live issue for you? Because what you wouldn't want to do is create a further backlog of appeals.
No, that we're very conscious of that, Deputy. As I said, like last week it was 1%, right? So just to put it in that context, as I said, when we introduced PUP first in response to one of the earlier questions, we were limited in the control checks we could implement. We've now implemented a check where we check with the revenue records, has that person paid PRSI, either employee PRSI or self-employed PRSI, to check were they actually in employment, had they actually lost a job. In some cases, people who got payment last March don't have the evidence to support that when they come and claim again. In most cases, it's self-employed people in the 1%, and in most of those cases, it's because they probably haven't filed their self-employed returns, or if they have, in some cases, they filed their self-employed returns with earnings of less than €5,000, which means that they didn't pay any social insurance contributions. And in those cases, they don't get the €350 they got last March, they get the €203 because actually their taxable income doesn't justify paying 350, it now pays 203.
Okay, thank you.